Hello YouTube, De-bodgery here. Welcome to EV Components Review. So first thing I want to show you is here's the one, and get that one out of the way. Here is the one. So these are the power stages from the gold controller. Yep. So the next thing I want to show you is, see all the grunge in here? This is flux. Yep. You see how the soot adheres? It washes off if you don't have flux in there. So clear evidence all over the place. You know, you see it down in there. That's flux. Clear evidence that, once again, Christopher Kleinschmidt is lying to you about washing their boards. Because that's clearly not washed. It is gooey. It's sticky. Yeah, you see it moving with my spooger. That's flux, folks. They did not wash these, okay? They just assemble them and ship them to you, and then when somebody like me takes issue with their shoddy work, then Christopher makes a video, you know, one of his puff pieces full of bullshit and lies, and tells you all the things that he wants you to hear, so you keep buying their crap. And yeah, it's the evidence is right before your eyes. I cannot make this shit up. All I can do is show you what it is that I find. All right. So this one does have catastrophic failure. We'll get to that in a minute. I want to show you evidence for or against repair to this power stage, because like on mine, there is evidence of repair. And in this one, I'm going to say, not really, or at least not anything I can conclusively say. So like if you look at this row of MOSFETs up here, they're all nice and straight. They're all at the same height. I would say that that's all machine placement. These two here at the same place. These ones are lower. So I've got to give this one the shadow of the doubt. Maybe those were hand placed, probably not. Keep in mind that all these parts, they are sitting on top of molten solder. They will float. So these two could have very easily have floated down, and that's the reason why they're kind of shifted. But yeah, that's not clear evidence. I don't see like those little lines where like somebody would have manually placed MOSFETs. So probably these floated rather than repairs being done. Same thing for this right here. You see these ones here. There's not like those little lines over the tops of MOSFETs where somebody would have manually shifted them. They're all pretty straight. That one's crooked. But yeah, again, it could have possibly have shifted, floated, or maybe somebody bumped it. Because everything here has to be made molten again when these bridges are laid down. So it could have very easily have happened then, and that's why this MOSFET's crooked. Yeah, this is added after the fact. They can inspect the MOSFETs just fine because these bridges are not here when the MOSFETs are placed. They come out of the reflow oven without these copper bridges in place. That's one of Christopher Kleinschmidt's many, many, many lies. Whoa, bump the camera. Sorry about that. Fortunately, it is on a gimbal, so it stabilizes again very quickly. Yeah. Anyway, so that probably got bumped, during the placement of this bridge somehow. But yeah, and that one's kind of crooked a little bit too. So probably that's when that happened. But I don't see like those typical lines I would see from manual placement of parts. Like say repair work. So probably this was not repair, although that comb is crooked too. That probably got crooked when this got placed on top of it. It kind of shifted a little bit. All right, so here is the, thermonuclear war. Yeah, so that MOSFET's crooked, that one's crooked, that one's crooked, that one's crooked. So I have two theories for this. This piece of this power stage is the one that suffers the most trauma. Here it is actually blown up and dead. So yes, definitely it suffers the most trauma, but it's also farthest away from the ceramic caps. It's also got that section of filter capacitors, electrolytics, that floats on the one end, i.e. there's no battery plus bus connection over here. So these ones suffer the worst. It's also the one that's not reinforced. So yeah, this is the one that sees the most trauma. So is it possible that from the nuclear storm that went on over their heads, and their own explosion, that everything got here so hot that the solder remelted and things kind of shifted in the midst of all of that catastrophe going on? Sure, that could explain why we have MOSFETs crooked. It's also possible that this was repaired before, put back together again, sold as new, and because they were hand placed, they were crooked. Can't tell you which one it is because there's simply too much disaster here. At least on this one here, we can see the top of the MOSFET, but we can see it's crooked. But I don't see like any lines where a person would have like tapped it into place. So not conclusive. But yeah, it's definitely massively crooked. Yeah, and like this MOSFET right here, that little nubbin right there, that is copper that is melted. Yeah. Here, let me rotate it up and try to get that in focus. There we go. It's kind of working on it. See if I can't get the camera to cooperate with me just a bit more. There we go. Yeah, see that? That's molten copper. That's a little copper blob on there. The only way that happens is electrical arcing. Yep. So things that went badly here, MOSFETs don't die this way. They don't. I mean, they'll char themselves into obliteration like this, but that's basically because they short internally, and then the semiconductor junction, becomes a very low resistance, and then they turn themselves into, this kind of charred death like you see in these things. But melted copper from that, never. That's not even a remote possibility. The only way that happened is from electrical arcing, period. So, the situation that was happening in the capacitors in the logic board area, that's what caused this. And literally arcing from there came down to here and turned the copper into molten metal, and then it solidified again. So yeah, this failure was epic. KO Moto flat out does not want you to ever see this because damn, that is seriously bad. Okay, so here is one of the screws. My camera, there we go. My camera app was not doing what I want. Let's see if it'll focus now. Yeah, this one is not so easy to get focused on there. It does not want to focus on that screw very good because of the depth of perception. Come on, focus. Focus on that screw. Come on. It will do it. I've done it before. Yeah. Should be using manual focus right now or something. And I'm not. Let's see. Yeah, I've got the thing set to autofocus. It's manual focus is not working. Okay, well, you're being pain in the ass. You're not doing what I want you to do. Come on. Focus on there. Ah, there we go. There we go. Now we're getting there. Okay, so, yeah, you can kind of see it in the blur. Yeah, there we go. Now we're focused in. Yeah, look at the head on that screw. I mean, the thing is half melted away. This is a stainless steel screw, folks. You don't get that from, like, blasting it with a propane torch. This heat was much higher than that. That happened from electrical arcing. Yeah, you can see the brass is equally eroded away from electrical arcing. Whereas if we look down here, if the camera will focus on it, there we go. Solder's all intact. So, this only happens because massive electrical arcing was happening right here on this battery plus stud. So battery minus the battery plus was going and just absolutely frying the fuck out of it. I'm going to flip this over. Hopefully the camera will cooperate with me. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Yeah. you can see the melted stainless steel down into the head of the screw. So here you have copper from the circuit trace. Here you have arcing, looks copper-like to the stainless steel. And this screw is welded to this brass stud. Yeah, I guess I could probably break it loose because it's probably not welded particularly well. But yeah, it's literally welded in place. All of that copper and all of that brass and all of that stainless steel just got really hot and all kind of became one metal. Yeah, I have never seen this kind of a catastrophic failure in a controller ever before or in any other high-power device like this before. This is called a really shitty design to have this sort of thing happen to you. Yeah. Yeah. Super, super yucky. All right, let's look at these bridges. because, yeah, I got another power stage to look at, and I don't have very much time left. So, pretty good solder joint. Don't have a problem with that. Same thing there. Pretty good solder joint. Flip this thing over so we can look at the combs. Get that up in there. There we go. So again, the combs aren't lifted. Good solder flow between the circuit board and the comb. Good solder flow here. So, well, that's pretty reasonable. I mean, it's still a shit design. You should never do this. But yeah, at least all the parts are soldered together. Same thing here. Yeah, everything is soldered together. Still shit design. Never do this. Bad design. You know, it's a Band-Aid over a stupid Band-Aid over another stupid Band-Aid that you should never ever do. But hey, you know, at least it's all soldered together, right? So good job on that, KO-ish. Oh, God. Yeah. Gotta wonder how many controllers KO has gotten back from people that have this kind of catastrophic damage. You know, I've got 2 logic boards. I've only looked at 1 power stage so far, but damn, that is really, 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 really bad. Never seen a controller die so catastrophically as this before, as to be able to melt copper that is soldered down to an aluminum metal core printed circuit board that is adhered to a hunk of aluminum. The heat right here to do that is incredible. Yeah, and to turn to slag, come on camera, it's not going to focus on it, is it? To turn to slag a screw, there we go. Yeah, look at this thing. To turn to slag a stainless steel screw, all I can say is, people, don't buy KO Moto products. Damn. Okay, let's look at the bottom power stage. Okay, so first thing, there's the one. Yeah, obviously I've lifted up all the copper off of here. This is the nature of cheap lead-free solder, is it turns all crusty, it kind of crystallizes, the metals in it don't all cool at the same rate, and so you get this kind of like a lumpy look to it, you know, and that's pretty typical. Yeah, you can see more of it here. Yeah, you'll get like this kind of a crusty surface. I didn't take any solder away from here. This is what was here, and this is very, very flat. So this was a very starved solder joint. This is all very flat right here as well. Very starved. There wasn't enough solder added here. And it's just absolutely shitty, cheap lead-free solder. Just the worst of the worst, which is why you get all this little bits of stuff in here. Because the metals don't cool at the same rates. It doesn't flow together properly. You get little lumpy bits in it. You get voids in it. It's just craptastically bad solder. There are decent lead-free solders. I refuse to use them because, well, quite frankly, leaded solder or silver solder solders so much better than anything lead-free that, yeah, I just simply won't ever use lead-free solder as long as I can buy leaded stuff. All right, so, yeah, if you see places like this, low spots, the copper was not adhered there. Like right here, you can see a large area. This is the place where this bridge was attached. Again, it's all not adhered to the copper. This is the circuit trace underneath here, and the big piece of copper reinforcing that was on here was not attached in either of those places. This all was, and that's the place where the bridge was, and the other bridge was right here. So this one was adhered. This one was not. Yeah, and again, you can see how the solder was mostly attached, but you've got some voids underneath it. So these are places where the copper was not adhered to the circuit trace underneath. You can see all this solder resist on here. So what they should have done, obviously, is there should have been copper all the way across here and all the way over to here, and then a large square right there with a hole in it. And this would have all been bare copper, not solder resist put on top of it. Yeah, no solder masking at all. And then the stud that goes down right here would have been soldered down here, plus it would have this big square of copper around it with a hole in it, and then solder around all that stuff, and that would have been a great joint. But nope, they used that stupid plastic bridge thing instead, and still have no reinforcing here. And so here is the, oops, got upside down. Here's the little piece that used to sit right there, and that sat right about like that. So you can see the solder resist underneath it. The studs was soldered down here, and then it was soldered over here, and nothing in between. So just why? It's just such a stupid design. Same thing here. Yeah, the solder pad is completely starved. This is all completely starved. Yeah, and then you've got all this solder resist on here. yeah, there should have been that piece of copper that went from here all the way over here. It should have been a big square with a hole in it, and then all that stuff soldered together. And they didn't. They just band-aid everything. Just do the absolute dead minimum, and it's stupid, and it's bad, and it doesn't work. Same problem here. You got all the solder resist around there, and that long piece of copper, which is ridiculously oversized. You know, this is such a badly out of balance power stage anyway. Yeah, again, same problem. So just craptastic. Here's your battery minus bus. Same thing. You know, no copper between here and here. Yeah, the stud that was here is completely starved. As you can see, it's almost completely flat. And, you know, I don't know what this looked like because that was all covered under plastic. I couldn't see it. So was this piece of copper adhered to the stud? No idea. Can't tell. Here's your battery plus bus. You know, you've got kind of a diamond-shaped copper pad there. Could they have done something on there to fix that better? Sure. But, you know, really you need a total redesign of this power stage because this is, well, it's the same old shit that KO's been making forever. Yeah. Okay, so this stud right here, this is the one that was sheared up, you know, that was twisted off. I soldered it back down again, so I heated this thing up, pulled up all this copper, put this stud back in place again, and this was flat starved. There was no solder between here and the stud or here and the stud. There was no extra around the bottoms here at all. So when I put this back in place and everything was molten, I used more solder to bring that all back together again because there was just gaps between the stud and the copper. It was, you know, absolutely a shitty design. And look at that. You can see the solder resist between here and here. So the bridge from here to here is because of the copper, not because they did it on the traces. This is stupid, people. You know, what the hell are they thinking? You know, how easy is it to design this board and to not put the solder resist here? But hey, you know, folks, it's KO Moto and they suck. Yeah, you can see the same thing here. Here's this trace that's bare, and then they've got solder resist, and then they have the pad for the stud. And they have to bridge the two together with the added piece of copper. Do all of it, folks. How hard is that to do? Anyway, I'm obviously ranting. I must be. Okay, let's look at these right here. So, you know, these combs, obviously, I've pulled them up, and I have them right here. Yeah, okay, so here is the comb for there. And here is the comb for there. All right, so now I'm going to flip them over so you can see the undersides. And flip that one over. All right. So on my Rush controller, I don't remember which one, or maybe it was both of them. I did have some lifted comb. All right, so in this one here, you can see it's got solder all the way across the bottom. And you can see you've got solder all the way across here. So this comb was adhered. It was solder flow from the copper to the circuit trace was all there. So that one was attached. This one here, no. So you'll notice you've got flat areas here, here, and over here. And then you've got like bare copper. This one was definitely lifted. It was not soldered down completely. It was soldered down at the back, but not at the front. And yeah, not over at this edge either. So yeah, this was very much what it would look like underneath my comb that was lifted up, or combs. It would look very much like this. So bad assembly when this got put in place, obviously so. All right, so let me pull these aside, and we're going to look at them as if they were oriented for the bridges. So, you know, one bridge would have come across from here to here, and the other bridge would have come from here to over here. Okay, so here are those two bridges in the exact same orientations. And first thing I'm going to do is just kind of tilt it. So, all right, so you see all this garbage underneath here? This is oxidization over top of the solder. So solder flow from this comb to the bridge did not happen in those areas. See the couple little shiny areas? That's where solder flow did occur. So anyway, this comb was attached to the bridge by, what, 10%? Hardly any at all. Here's the other one. It's slightly better. Again, you can see all the garbage oxidization. What do you want to call that? 30%? 40%? Something like that. Again, really, 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 really shitty, Yeah, in every possible way. Adhesion was soldered between the comb and the underside of the bridge. All I can say is, damn, that is absolutely horrifically bad. This is actually worse, as far as this joint is concerned. This is actually worse than the plumber's strapping that Chrissy said is, patented. It's just plumber strapping. Anybody can buy it in any hardware store. This is worse by a lot than that little tiny pad that the ends of those bridges in the Pro and the F-Spec have to the phase buses. Because, they're not reinforced. They're just like this. And then those little bridges go solder down to this little spots right here. This is worse than that. All I can say is, KO Moto, you guys suck so badly. You bring me such incredible shit like this. All right, I think that's it.